At a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to this edition of TED Talks. Um, it's quite nice to see the room full and also several people online. Um, I'm wondering what is that credit that we should give it to. It is because of the speaker that we have, Mr. Srinivas. But quickly, before we get started with the talk, and because we have these additional interests that go beyond the usual TED Talk interests, just to quickly, let you know, TED Talks are the talk series that are hosted by the TREADS initiative at Center for Policy Research. TREADS is Transboundary Rivers, Ecologies and Development Studies. And this is a group that focuses primarily on rivers and development studies, particularly focusing on transboundary dimensions. But because of the work that we have been doing for a while, we have built a very interesting set of institutional relationships. And the recent most is with the NMCG, National Mission for Clean Ganga, which is implementing the Namami Gange program, the flagship program of Government of India. This particular relationship is an MOU with the NMCG and by CPR's MOU with NMCG is to pursue research interests towards producing or informing policy thinking about producing enduring outcomes of Namami Gange, and also to draw on the experiences of implementing Namami Gange program towards informing policy thinking and institutional transformation for rejuvenating India's rivers. So that's what the MOU aims at. And it is under this MOU that we have been working with National Mission for Clean Ganga on a series of research projects. One of them, which is something that needs to be given credit for to the NMCG, as a mission, is that their recent emphasis on improving the way urban planning is pursued to protect urban water bodies and also urban rivers and conserve urban rivers. So it is one of the primary themes of interest that NMCG has been pursuing. And one of those active partners we should acknowledge here is the NIUA, National Institute of Urban Affairs. So NMCG, NIUA, and CPR has been working on this theme for a while, and you would see, if you look it up on the website of CPR, particularly the TREADS initiative, you would see some of these events that we have organized, which includes a planner's circle. Because the reason why we have been organizing this is primarily to look at how what we call the sole statutory instrument that shapes urban growth in India, which is the master plan. And we have argued that it is somewhat misunderstood, not necessarily in a bad way, but in expecting that the master plan would be a panacea to all the urban problems. We wanted to sort of highlight the very fundamental nature of the master plan and sort of acknowledge the need for acknowledging the limitations of the structure of the master plan to address all these problems, that the emerging challenges that we are facing in the urban sector, which are primarily more environmental in nature. And now with the climate change as the other trigger, which is affecting the urban governance, which is affecting urban growth, as well as the posing new urban governance challenges. So it is in that context that at CPR, TREADS is pursuing this research project to look at what really the instrument of master plan can do to address the problem of conserving, developing, and also managing urban water bodies, including rivers. So one of the things that we wanted to, and one of the ways that we were going about this research project is to give due attention to the practitioners' understanding about how master plan could be used. It is in this background that we thought about actually using this platform of TED Talks to invite practitioners who have contributed significantly and who are part of this evolution of thinking around the instrument, how the instrument is being applied in urban areas, and draw on their experiential wisdom of preparing master plans and reimagining master plans for these new challenges. That's where our speaker today, whom I have great pleasure in introducing, Mr. R. Srinivas, who is a former officer of TCPO, Town and Country Planning Organization of Government of India. In his span of almost 4 decades,
31 years,
3 decades, I mean, I have a list of initiatives that he has contributed to. I mean, that would take quite a bit of time to list down and read through. But one of the major contributions that he has made is the key reference these days when people want to rethink about master plan is the URFDI, urban. I was trying to sort of urban
regional development plan formation and implementation guidelines.
Right. So these guidelines are the ones which are now a reference point for bringing in new interests into master plan preparation, and he has contributed significantly to that. And also he's currently an expert advisor to the HLC, High Level Committee on Urban Capacity Building.
Urban
Planning and capacity building. So given the kind of vast experience that he has, I mean, within the, it's pretty much planning think tank, right?
Yeah, it's a planning think tank.
It's a urban planning think tank, you could say, something that informs thinking at the local as well as the subnational scale about urban planning. Somebody like him talking about what is really feasible when you want to talk about water-centric urban plan. That's the idea of this talk. We thought we could structure it in a certain way, and our team at the TREDS has tried to pose him questions, and we saw the responses, and I think it is best that we leave him to address and share his thoughts, and that is the best way of learning from him. That's what I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that, I invite Mr. Srinivas to take over and then give his talk. And the way we planned is that we will have about 45 minutes for the talk, and then after that we open it for question and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivas, for giving me the opportunity to share my views on whatever the questions you are going to raise. And of course, you have mentioned about the role of master plan. So straight away, should I start speaking? So let me, for the benefit of participants, let me give some figures, on the master plan. Most of you are aware of the, the process for preparation of master plan. Normally, it is done under the State Town and Country Planning Acts, and for the metropolitan cities under the Urban Development Authority Act. So as per 2011, you are aware, we had 7,933 cities and towns. And out of that, 4,041 were statutory towns. And as per the latest information, what we collected in Town and Country Planning Organization, there are around 2,900 cities and towns having the statutory master plan, and which works out to around 37% of the total number of cities and towns. Now, census 2021 figures are not available. Now we'll have to see how many cities are going to be added. And above that, how many census towns will be added? It's very difficult. Census towns, still, they might be under the administrative control of Gram Panchayat. And how we are going to bring those towns, first of all, you need to notify those census towns and then accordingly take steps for preparing the master plan. But yes, as per the information available in Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, there are 49 urban local bodies, statutory towns. Now, it's a huge challenge, maybe 2021 figures may say that the number of cities and towns have gone beyond 10,000. Then are we in a position to prepare the master plan for all the cities and towns? It will be a huge challenge. But yes, we do have a sub-scheme called formulation of GIS-based master plan. So first phase, almost 300 cities and towns, they have prepared, GIS-based, and they are in process of notifying those plans. And yes, ministry has to, in principle, they have agreed that at least for all the statutory towns, we should have a GIS-based master plan. Let me also tell Like once the GIS based master plan, the scheme was introduced way back in 2016 or 17, and the number of cities have actually been added. So till 2011, 12, only around 1700 cities and town had the master plan. Now the figure has gone up to 4900. Now it is very, I mean, out of curiosity, you may ask that what is the status of master plan? To what extent they are really implementable? But the answer is quite tough to tell. I was discussing with Srinivas ji and Partha ji that none of the master plans really can give the actual status that to what extent it has been implemented. Very difficult to tell. So I was discussing Mukta that Maharashtra state, they have started quantifying the implementation of master plan, like how much proposal they have made in the master plan and to what extent they have been implemented. But still, it's very difficult. But yes, the cities need to review the master plan periodically. Normally, TNCP acts and urban development authorities do have the provision for reviewing the master plan. But to what extent, to and how effectively the master plan is being reviewed, it's a little bit difficult to answer. Now, with regard to river-centric, he has mentioned, okay, yeah.
If you could describe what exactly is master plan, statutory master.
Yeah,
And beginning itself, and then we can move.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose a lot of non-tenants are there.
Yeah.
So I straight away, you can say that it's a statutory document which actually does the detailed analysis of existing urban infrastructure, and then it comes with the the projection, the proposals, based on the projection, not only demographic projection, but all estimated requirements for physical as well as social infrastructure. So we just, in simple way, we should say it's a statutory document. Laying a, the 20 years, in 10 years perspective, it actually lay down the strategies for plan development. The next, what you would like to ask? I'll continue because this was the starting point was I should have actually defined, but I straight away went to the status of actual availability of master plan. Yes, the master plan process, it's a lengthy process. First of all, you have to come up with a draft master plan, and normally cities what they do, they constitute expert committees, like expert committee on demography, expert committee on physical infrastructure, social infrastructure, plan monitoring and enforcement. Different expert groups are constituted, and together with series of meetings they will come up with a draft, and the draft master plan has to be published, or it has to be put on public domain under the provisions of Town and City Planning Act or Urban Development Authority Act for inviting objection session. Now, you have to give time, at least 90 days you have to give as per the provision of Act. Somewhere it is 45 days, somewhere it is 90 days. For Master Plan Delhi, it was 90 days for inviting objection session. And normally what the State Town Planning Department or Development Authority, what they do, they constitute a screening committee. And they will go through the objection sessions and what objection sessions tell, and they have to give a remark that whether the suggestion or objection is really accepted or not. With regard to Master Plan 2041, I was involved. I had also given detailed comments on that. There were almost 30,000 plus objection sessions. But yes, the objection sessions have to be related to Master Plan. It's not that, because what we have seen from our experience, even in Master Plan 2021, Master Plan 2041, lot of stakeholders are there. You have a retail trader association, whole traders association, you have resident welfare association, you have community building organization. Normally what happened, the retail trader association, they will say you make all the commercial, the legal. So it is more of an individual, representation asking for regularizing the whatever the unauthorized development has taken place, and it becomes, city like Delhi having more than 1.75 crore population is a huge challenge to manage the entire land. Of course, city has reached to almost saturation point, and even the metropolitan cities also, they have reached to a saturation point wherein you have to really think for, the redevelopment. How since the land is scarce, then there are a lot of policies you'll have to prepare, that whether you are going to vertical, you will encourage vertical, development by enhancing the FSI. So it takes a lot of time. The task for preparing master plan for Delhi started in 2017. The draft, everything has been, completed. The stakeholder consultations have been completed. Now it is awaiting the notification of final notification to be issued by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, because the Delhi master plan comes under the central subject. Delhi Development Authority per se comes under the central subject. So we are awaiting the the notification of master plan. But one can also always ask that exactly how much time it should take to prepare a statutory master plan. Normally for small and medium town, it should not take. We have actually advised through our URDF guidelines that it should take 1 year. So you divide into 4 quarters. For first 6 months, you do all the secondary surveys. Even if primary surveys can also be undertaken, you can do that. Followed by your 3 months, you have to do the detailed analysis, and then your last 3 months you can come up with the the proposals for both physical and social infrastructure. It has been observed that it takes unduly long time to notify a master plan. Recently, if you take the example of Shimla, it was the notification was pending for a long time. Finally, the Supreme Court intervened and directed the state government, you notify the master plan and you start implementing the proposals. So it's not only the stakeholder consultation, but somewhere there are also a lot of political stakes involved. So it takes, but some of the progressive states like Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, I mean, they have done a lot of work and they have actually streamlined the preparation of master plan, and they're taking, but challenges will be there. States like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Northeast states, it takes time because there are certain issues. What are the issues? The capacity is there. I mean, the manpower availability in the state town and city planning department as well as development authorities. Normally, we say, for your information, we say that for every 12,000 urban population, we need to have one planner. So we did. I mean, if you are aware, we also, as a part of TCPO and Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, we also contributed to the Niti Aayog report on urban planning capacity reforms. There we had done a detailed analysis. So if you take a down, say, one urban planner for 12,000 urban population, if you calculate, it will work out around 66,000 urban planners would be required to work in state, say state government, the town and organization, urban development or metropolitan development authorities. But 66,000 is a huge figure. Of course, in consultation with Niti Aayog, we came up with a realistic figure that 8,000 planners immediately would be required. But it depends, I've got all the information on the state. 47% are actually vacant posts in the state town planning departments and urban development authorities who are actually responsible for preparing the master plan. That's why, because of the lack of manpower availability, the master plan process gets delayed. For example, Tripura, the entire state will have only 2 planners. And there are more than, there are around 20, 30 cities. And giving all the responsibility to them, it's next to impossible. Ultimately, they have to resort to outsourcing the plan. I also take the example of Uttar Pradesh, where also the state town planning department hardly has got around 10 to 12 planners. The state having more than 700 towns, how will ensure? So most of the state under the GIS-based master plan sub scheme, they have mostly depending on the consultants. So that's why they have gone for bid. Recently, Jharkhand and master plan of Jharkhand and Bihar, they have initiated the bid process for master plan. So there are huge challenges. But I would like to, while continuing our discussion on master plan, I would like to, suggest, of course, from town and city planning organization till I was in the service, we were actually ascertaining the reasons that how effectively the master plan can really be implemented. That's the biggest challenge. Now, what we were actually advising the states that you need to projectivize the entire master plan. What is the next stage? Say, for example, in Delhi, the next stage of once the master plan gets notified, you have to go for a preparation of zonal development plan. So let me also tell about the hierarchy of master plan. Those who are not planners, you start from, the metropolitan region plan, which is the, if you delineate like all million plus cities ideally should delineate their metropolitan region. Based, you're a geographer, you know that how you can really delineate a region based on different parameters. Ideally, all the 53 million plus cities need to delineate the metropolitan region. Now, after the metropolitan region, we come for the municipal corporation or planning area, you need to prepare a master plan. Then master plan proposals or master plan can be disaggregated into zonal development plan. So very few cities really go for the disaggregation of master plan proposals in the form of zonal development plan. Now, zonal development plan, Delhi has prepared the zonal development plan because as per the Supreme Court directions, they were supposed to prepare all the zonal development plans within the 1 year of the notification of master plan 2021. Now, the moment 2041 master plan gets notified, invariably they have to complete the entire exercise in 1 year. So zonal development plans actually details out the proposals of the master plan. Now, that is a third level. Metropolitan plan, master plan, zonal development plan. Then now off late, ministry has been encouraging area-based strategies. What we call under the smart city mission, the ministry has been advocating to take up the area-based strategies. Now, what is area-based strategies? Typically, you can divide into two. One is local area plan, which is for the the brownfields, and within the city, you can identify a few wards and you can delineate those wards as a local area, and then you go for preparation. Secondly, we have a town planning scheme, which is a very popular tool for plan development in Gujarat. Debashri is very well because he is from CEPT. And every student of CEPT University knows about town planning scheme. All the thesis will be, related to town planning scheme. Good. So now what happened? The TPS is basically for the greenfield site, typically in, the peripheral, peri-urban areas where, we require plan development. So states are actually being encouraged. Now, let me also mention about the urban planning reforms. Should I mention or so later on? Let me complete this. Then I will come to the Water-Centric. So area, we will come to that. So area-based strategy has to be implemented through local area plans and town planning scheme. Now, from our experience, because I was team leader for implementing the sub scheme on local area plan and town planning scheme, there was a lot of encouragement. We had the capacity building with the in collaboration with CEPT University, and there was a lot of awareness created. So, of course, once it is very difficult, I have told, to quantify the implementation of master plan. But at the same time, local area plan, prepare that local area plan, prepare the DPRs, within 5 years, you can implement. So that, on ground, you will be able to know that to what extent local area plan has been implemented. But of course, it's a big challenge. It's not that sitting in Delhi, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, we have prescribed the guidelines. We came to know that in Northeast states, it was quite difficult to implement area-based strategies because there are certain land ownership issues are there. Maybe, town planning scheme is basically through stakeholder consultation, through, you have to take into the confidence the owner, how much land he is going to surrender and what could be the reconstituted plan for that particular area. So these are all, broadly I have mentioned about the hierarchy of preparation of master plan. But yes, the biggest question is that how we are going to ascertain the implementation of master plan. We clearly believe that master plan mandatorily has to be reviewed. Even if it is in town and country planning, it has to become a rule that it has to be reviewed every 5 years. Secondly, how we are going to projectivize. Proposals, you should be absolutely clear. What are the proposals are there and how it could be the financial implication of implementing those proposals. Now, since I have been teaching in, SPA, and especially typically the first semester will be devoted towards, the ODP exercise, outline development plan exercise. There, my view was that why can't integrate the financial or capital investment plan and financial operating plan with the master plan process. So once you know the financial implications, say, for example, master plan 2041, it has got a huge requirement, maybe say 30,000-40,000 crore rupees would be required. And that entire, capital investment plan need to be, it has to be phased out. Like every 4 years, how much you are going to spend, and then you review to what extent. So you need to productivize the master plan, and then only you will be able to, you will be able to ascertain the efficacy of the implementation. Now, the second question, which is very much important, and what you are very curiously you want to know that how effective are tools such as zoning, TDRs, DCR, bylaws, and special purpose vehicles, I think, what I SPV, in protection and governance of water bodies. It's I will tell, looking into the the adverse impact of the climate. We have to absolutely focus. But let me tell you, there are two set of guidelines. One is master plan guidelines, rather master plan regulations. All the regulations have to be put in terms of zoning regulations, what kind of activities are to be permitted and under what category of those. This is master plan regulation, but there are other set of regulations known as building bylaws. I think you are all aware of the building regulations. Typically in Delhi, master plan lays out the master plan regulations, and we have a unified building bylaws for national capital territory of Delhi. So what typically when we talk about the the protection of the floodplains, most others, I mean cities were came up along the banks of all the important, especially the Indo-Gangetic plain, you can see. So it becomes very much important that how you are going to conserve, preserve the floodplains within the urban area. I mean, you can see that, right when Yamuna enters Delhi, and then it, crosses NCT Delhi and come to the, Uttar Pradesh. Now you have to see how much development has actually taken place. When zonal development plan for O region, the Yamuna region, Yamuna river is known as Zone O, river zone. And Zone O is a zone for protection against any development activities. And I don't know if you go towards Noida, there's a huge board that this is Zone O and no construction and development is actually permissible. But if you take the latest, if you do the drone mapping, you can absolutely know that what sort of development has already taken place. Now, we were having the stakeholder consultation when we prepared, in fact, Town and City Planning Organization prepared river-centric urban planning guidelines. This was actually, the direction came from the first Ganga Council meeting, which was held under the chairmanship of Honorable Prime Minister on 14/12/2022. So based on their direction, Ministry directed us to prepare this. And we had kindly, I think Debashri is already aware of that. And I think you should also go through that, where we have prescribed actually regulations that how we are going to protect our floodplains. Clearly, we have mentioned about, along the floodplains, it depends on the expanse of river, that how you are going to delineate the floodplains. It becomes very much important. You have to do mapping of all the rivers. I mean, the water bodies as well as rivers flowing through the city. The first and foremost task becomes, of course, when we have a GIS-based master plan, we can always add layer of the water bodies as well as, river. So it becomes very much important in order to protect the floodplains within the urban area, that what sort of regulations we should do. So what we can do is, depending upon what I mentioned, that when the river expands, the cities can always delineate the floodplains. First of all, they have to, I mean, is it from edge of the river till 50 meters, 100 meters, depending upon the expanse, they can classify that, the floodplains as, the prohibitory zone and the regulated zone. So up to 100 meters, say for example, in Delhi, maybe up to 500 meters, we can have of course, zone O is a regulated zone where you are not permitted to allow construction activity. So you have in prohibitory zone, absolutely no construction, no development activity. Whereas in regulated zone, beyond the prohibited zone, you can have a certain, you can go for recreation, activities. But of course, you are not supposed to, really create the built-up spaces. Even some buildings are there that we have actually prescribed norms under the, building bylaws category. So for delineating floodplains, you can incorporate in the master plan. Whereas regulating the construction in the regulated zone, you can use the building bylaws. So both set of, norms and standards we have prescribed in river-centric urban planning guidelines. Of course, if you kindly allow me to read the objectives of the river-centric guidelines, and the objectives were framed by the NMCG. They had only framed. Basically, it is to highlight the need for preparing guidelines for river-centric master planning and urban river management and planning for the guidance of citizens. To attempt a framework for river water conservation, development of river waterfront, to devise development regulation zoning for river development. That was the essence of this guidance. And of course, to recommend suitable planning strategies for river water management and riverfront development as a part of sustainable urban planning. Now, based on the discussions with the state government officials, cities officials, it was observed that state government said, straight away, if you tell that we are going to, implement this guideline, it becomes very difficult. What happened, similar in the case of like Delhi, you can talk about other cities also. The same scenario is there where you have a lot of settlements already there. Now, what do we do for those settlements? It's not that you just issue a diktat that you are going to demolish that. It's next to impossible. And somewhere the state government officers also mentioned that when river course changes, then how you are going to alter the, at all, if you are going to delineate zone, how you are going to, it was very, it was very challenging. And actually the town and country planner, they were little bit, they were in little bit difficulty, when enforcement comes, there'll be a lot of political stakes also. Zono, I mean, you can't, but yes, at the same time, it's not that, I mean, you cannot conserve the river plan. Why not go, whatever, the elements are there, go for in situ, upgradation of the infrastructure. Ensure that not a single drop of water, wastewater is discharged into river. I mean, that's, I'll be very curious to know what you are, studying the European cities and what sort of regulations they have, we can have a comparison between the Indian condition and the European condition. I'm just quoting, I think when I saw, when we visited, Washington, and we have then USA have a Potomac River. And right on the floodplains, you have Ronald Reagan International Airport. I don't know, the participant from USA, they can throw more light. It's right on the floodplain. But at the same time, Potomac is full of, aquatic, whatever the life, they have totally conserved. But if any proposal comes on the floodplains, there'll be a lot of hue and cry in India, because especially the NGOs or the CBOs, they will definitely come and, protest. But at the same time, you should see the Akshardham temple as well as, the metro, they have got, metro office. So that's also, and even the metro residential accommodation is also right on the floodplain. Games are, I'm including Games Village also. But of course, if you talk about Delhi last year flooding, where entire SPA was, entire IP estate was, inundated. And you are well aware it was more of a mismanagement, because I think the irrigation department were not able to open the, sluice gate, what you call, I think you can tell better on that. So that was more of a mismanagement, and ultimately army, virtually came to rescue. And it took almost 10 days, to flush out the water. So this becomes, very much, important, that how we are going to, I mean, in conclusion, I can say that cities need to incorporate these provisions, but they let them have a discussions with the, the stakeholders, and accordingly they can delineate the floodplains in order to, but my personal view is that you have to designate floodplains as no construction zone. Yes, how you can strengthen the floodplains? That through maybe you can develop biodiversity plan. Now even you are all aware of Sabarmati riverfront. He has got better, the background and the knowledge of Sabarmati riverfront. But somebody may say that the same thing cannot be, implemented in the North India, where the glacial fed. You can't really play with the overall, the what you will call it as the entire river course in the geomorphology term. I think you will be able to tell. So what, I mean, they have, I mean, I think we had Professor Babu from, so he was not really supporting the way of riverfront development is taking place in Sabarmati, and it cannot be replicated in Delhi, because that is a matter of, debate. Yes, I repeat, the cities need to protect by only having the regulation, and then you need to have enforcement. And these days, enforcement becomes easier the moment you have a, the drone-based mapping, the large-scale mapping. And in fact, the TCP has also prepared a design standards for drone-based mapping. Kindly note down that, and you can upload that. So that will, I mean, really, it has given the detailed methodology for preparing maps out of drone-based technology, and it is very effective. You can absolutely monitor the, I mean, every quarter, if you take the, if you do the mapping, you'll be able to ascertain the whatever the development activities are being undertaken, legally or illegally. That absolutely you can know. Now we come to the, of course, you have mentioned about, there are recommendations from ministry, TCPO, and other government organization on the need to upgrade the town and country planning laws of states on account of changing urban dynamics, environmental challenges. Yet the state response has not been adequate. What explains such slow response from the state in amending the town and country planning laws? Pretty tough question to answer. Now, let me also give a historical background of how the Town and Country Planning Act actually got evolved. Straight away, I can say that after independence, we had very few. I think IIT Kharagpur started, followed by SPA in 1955. Virtually 50s and 60s, we never had a trained town planners. So what those who had a BE Civil and BRs, they were sent as I think the pool scientist, or they were sent to UK, USA for training. And the very first, and of course, we have inherited the Town and Country Planning Act of UK. And in fact, building regulations have been inherited from, the British. So let me also give the historical background. Uh, the very first, the model Town and Country Planning Act was prepared in 1960. That was the base of it was a central, I will not call it as act, but the title was act, but it was not a statute. It was more of an advisory. So the Model Town and Country Planning Act 1960 was circulated to all the states, and based on that, states started, developing their own Town and Country Planning Act. This was followed by Model Regional and Town Planning and Development Law to 1985. And actually, this model law facilitated the formulation of Town and Country Planning Act. Now, let me also tell you, virtually all the states and UTs, they have their own Town and Country Planning Act. But Rajasthan, which is the only state, still it is actually persisting on the Urban Improvement Act, Rajasthan Urban Improvement Act, under which they normally notify the thing. But at the same time, Haryana doesn't have a comprehensive Town and Country Planning Act. They have their own, the Haryana Development Regulation and Urban Areas Act. So now we have requested, in fact, the chief town planner is very much keen to have a comprehensive Town and Country Planning Act, which can subsume the existing 3 or 4, acts. The question comes, how proactive they are in revising their Town and Country Planning Act. But let me also tell you, the Town and Country Planning Act does not explicitly mention about disaster management, regarding the environmental sustainability. Explicitly, it never mentions. It also, presently, the Town and Country Planning Acts are not mentioning about, the plans like comprehensive mobility plan, city sanitation plan, city, comprehensive mobility plan, city sanitation plan. Then you also have a specialized city water action plan. There are so many, specialized plans, but the mention of these plans are not there. So until and unless you incorporate these, at least you need to mention that after the notification of master plan, at least the city should work on these special plans or specialized plans. So there is no mention of that. And we have, while preparing the river-centric urban planning guidelines, we only found that very few cities actually had mentioned about the protection of, flood plains. Bangalore master plan is one of the plan. They have laid down, the conditions for protecting the river as well as water bodies. Delhi, of course, I mentioned the zonal development plan is there. But the big question is that whether the regulations have actually been implemented. Now see the status of water bodies in Bengaluru, how they have been polluted. It used to be known as City of Lakes, but lot of water bodies have actually vanished. let me tell you, in 50s and 60s, we had more than 250 water bodies in Delhi. Traditional water bodies are there. Talab used to be there. Pond used to be there. And right now it is hardly 25 water bodies have been left. So where they have gone, maybe unprecedented pressure on the land. So the all low-lying areas have been filled and the construction activities have taken place. I can also tell about the Chennai experience, why urban flooding took place. Because they have given the layout approvals in the low-lying area. Now, where the water is going to go? I mean, of course, you may have a construction in, yeah, I mean, that's an experience. I mean, we have a lot of stories there, even Bengaluru also, suffer. And what to talk about our millennium city? Gurugram. 1 hour of heavy downpour will totally throw out the city. I mean, in terms of traffic transportation. So let me also quote the example, where things went wrong. Haryana was the first state to allow private developers to take up. And, we went gaga over that model, during 1990s, especially during the time of mega city scheme. We used to have a mega city scheme, and Haryana officers used to be invited to demonstrate how effective. Yeah, 5 minutes. I'll just finish this. I'm concluding. So what happened, they started issuing the license to the developers. So they came up with their layout plan. All, residential development, institutional development, commercial development, all took place. But at the same time, nobody thought that how you are going to integrate with the trunk infrastructure, the where drains have gone. So probably that is the reason where the urban flooding takes place. So let me also tell you, some of the states have actually revisited their town and city planning acts. One is Bihar, Bihar, of course, thanks to SEP, they came up with a comprehensive town and city planning act, which actually incorporated the, provision of preparing metropolitan plan, master plan, and even plans for rural areas. I mean, we also need to ensure plans for Gram Panchayat. That's what Kerala also, they came up with the ordinance, and then finally in 2021, they finalized. Manipur recently, they are making efforts to revise. Maharashtra, they did in 2015. Tamil Nadu, the latest one, 2022, they have totally revisited the 2000, their 1970 Act, and they have, I was also part of that committee, which we strongly advocated for, incorporating the, the provisions of preparing all hierarchy of all the plan, metropolitan plan to the area-based strategy. And Uttar Pradesh also recently, they have issued, they have put that draft Town and City Planning Act on their web, and we have also given a lot of inputs to them to improve that thing. So yes, the need of hour is to advise all the state to revisit their town and country planning acts. And what we think, even HLC, we have been thinking, the recommendation is also that we need to revisit. But yes, you need to have some sort of a, the committee, of course, some of the state have also constituted their own HLC. So one of the agenda of this, all these committees, or even a apex committee can be constituted to recommend that the existing TNCP acts to be totally revisited. And of course, they need to incorporate the provisions of environmental protection, disaster mitigation, both needs to be, and in fact, climate resilience, that word is also missing in the town and country planning act. So somewhere we'll have to strongly advocate to the state to incorporate the provision of both, the disaster as well as environmental resilience. So you have given the warning that 5 minutes are left. I'll be very happy to know the response from the online participants. If somebody has given the comments, admin can read those comments. If somebody might have given some suggestion, or if any question is there, definitely I will be very glad to.
Is there any questions there, Amnas?
In chat box? I can't read from here.
No, she's going to read.
Yeah, please.
Is there
Is
somebody?
Murli? Is it?
Okay.
Yes.
Read it out. Do you have a mic near you?
Or you can give the opportunity to the person who's.
No.
Is it actually? It is muted. It is muted.
It's a webinar.
You can do it. We can ask them to talk in a webinar.
No, let me read. If you can read, beta, if you can read this so that I can. Or I have to come there.
No, it's fine.
I'll read it out. You have the mic?
Yeah.
You know what, I can read it out. Whether water circularity in terms of reuse of treated wastewater, stormwater drains, and its appropriate usage. Ecosystem and climate resilience aspects, water supply and sanitation, industrial, commercial, institutional usages are worked out. And does the master plan include the water security plans and water governance directions also? Essentially, it is about that.
That's what,
That's the seminar is about.
that's the seminar is about. That's what we were saying, that we need to have a special plans, like water action plan for that. But the question is very valid. It is unfortunate that those things have not been common. Of course, yeah, in master plan, they will give the analysis, like what is the existing, requirement, what is the projected requirement, what is the deficiency, and how much time or how much sources would be required to overcome the deficiency. But yes, what he's mentioning, in order to have effective, reuse of,
Wastewater.
the wastewater, perhaps the city should think about the decentralized, wastewater. That's what we have been discussing with the CPHHU, and there is also manual on, treatment of, wastewater. And in fact, yes. No, let me answer this, then I will take up. So I think what I mentioned about the area-based strategies, perhaps at the neighborhood level, if city authorities can seriously think about the treating the water at the residential layout or at the neighborhood level, and reusing every drop of water, treated wastewater. I mean, it will be virtually criminal to discharge the wastewater through stormwater drains. And stormwater drains are, of course, meant for, taking the rainwater. But unfortunately, majority of cities, India, especially the small and medium towns, the wastewater gets discharged through the stormwater. Now, the time has come that why don't, within the area-based strategy, one can always advocate for decentralized wastewater treatment, and that will be effective. Maybe the capital investment will be, once you are going for a centralized wastewater treatment plan, perhaps through, neighborhood level wastewater treatment, that will be much more cost effective, and that will, every drop of water can be used. This is an example. If you have gone to New Moti Bagh, where it has been very effectively, both solid waste and the water wastewater, both are treated there and reused. And the treated waste is actually used for horticultural purpose within this NDMC area. They are actually selling water to NDMC area, and it is very effectively, every, organic and inorganic waste are, segregated and recycled at that place only. So this will be, you have raised a very valid point. And what is the last three sentence?
No, it's have they been incorporated?
No, not incorporated, but yes, through URDP guidelines, of course, we are advocating. But yes, now with GIS-based master plan, since there will be different layers, this issue will definitely be addressed. You may go through some of the, GIS-based master plan. Again, you may say that it is not, it is not adequately addressing. That's why I was mentioning about this. Maybe we can have a spatial water action plan.
Yeah.
Separate. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
There is one more question. There are a bunch
Okay.
of questions, but why don't you, no, why don't you take it up,
This
and
is-
then we will go back to online.
Tyagi, I think Tyagi. Can't read from this.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, hello, thanks. My question is about the scope or the methodologies and the tools you have within the master plan framework to resolve issues. Now, what I'm talking about, to explain what I mean, is where you have, one is master planning for a green field, like whether,
Mhm. Yes, yes.
but you already have a lot of problems which are already there. Sometimes there are problems that have been created by previous master plans,
Mhm.
such as the BKC example,
Mhm.
or in every city there'll be
Yeah, yeah,
examples
yeah.
of this, right? Literally every
Mhm.
city will have examples of very sort of water sensitive areas where there is development.
Yes.
So you have formal development and you have unplanned and existing development in areas where, from a water-centric perspective, they really shouldn't be there.
Mhm.
Sometimes the master plan is actually an obstacle to resolving that problem. And what I mean by that is that, there's the legal power of the master plan and its normative power.
Hmm.
So for the administrative authorities to say, now we'll just accept this structure, especially if it's an unplanned structure,
Mhm.
we'll just accept the structure as what it is
Mhm.
and work around it and work on the drainage plans and things like that. They can't do that because of the weight of the master plan. And so the method for kind of moderating the master plan should be, I feel more easily accessible. I mean, a rule-bound framework for moderating
Yes,
the master
yes.
plan, but that method, if it's more easily accessible, and in fact, the master plans could possibly even facilitate that by identifying some of these sites
Yes,
of potential
Mhm.
kind of incoherence,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
could be,
Absolutely. No, I think,
yeah.
I think what you meant, I think there, what you say that implementation is, somewhere there are a lot of constraints, involved.
Yeah,
But
and
I could,
also, I mean, the power to modify the master plan exists,
no,
but
it
nobody
exists.
wants to put their neck on the line and
Yes,
say, we will do that.
Our acts have got all the provisions to, amend the master plan.
Yeah.
And I remember Gita Diwan, she was asking for I want to know how many amendments have taken place to RTI. So during that, until 2021 master plan, we were, through RTI only.
Through
RTI. That I want to know the list of amendments undertaken, during the past 10 years. There were more than 100 amendments. But you are right. But I will also tell, you have mentioned about the master plan regulations, and then you go for enforcement and the implementation and enforcement. But at the same time, our building values also, somewhere their thinking is that they are too rigid. They are not able to take care of the ever growing the requirement of space or built up space. They are not able to. Now what ministry is advocated that you need to remove the contradictions in the building. Now what do you mean by contradiction? That's actually totally, I mean, you need to have an in-depth assessment. Now you will have to see that how efficient is our land use. And that is typical Bimal Patil's version. That how much land is under public land. And you compare, I'm not talking about the American cities, you compare European cities and Indian cities, there will be a lot of difference, where you have a 25 to 30% under the public land. Now, of course, to remove the contradiction, the experts are also advocating the form-based code. Form-based code, which can be, which will be more of a, the sketch-based, regulation, rather than you have a text-based regulation. So what we say, the master plan also, what you are mentioning, is more of a text-based, where the implementation becomes, difficult, and maybe because of certain regulations. Now, there are zoning regulations. I think you must be aware of that zoning regulation, where master plan Delhi gives detail, under use what sort of activities you really permit. But when you actually go on ground, it will be totally different scenario. Go to Trans-Similar area where unauthorized colonies are there, it's absolutely, blatant violation of all these things. But you may ask me why unauthorized colonies were allowed. That's very difficult because these colonies actually absorb the, the immigrant populations. But, I can tell about the building values. Yes, we need to, revise those regulations, make it more sketch based, how you can have a form. Typically, like you take the example of Jaipur or even Connaught Place, that's essentially a, it's a form of, it's a type of form based, So now cities through local area plan are being advised, and the local area plans which have been submitted, there were 25 cities were covered. Actually, they have started, experimenting how we can have a form based code.
So,
Okay,
I will just.
Because I have not fully answered her question.
Before, this is actually associated with your question, just linked to it. You mentioned, she talked about modification to the master plan. You also mentioned in your talk about the need for reviewing the master plan every 5 years.
Absolutely.
Now, could you just explain what is the process involved in modification of a master plan? To my knowledge, in certain states, modification of master plan requires going back to the legislative assembly. Certain cities.
Yes.
Certain states.
Yes.
Particularly
Andhra and
is it?
Telangana.
Yes. So
Yes.
could you please explain first, you could also mention about the variation of the processes involved in modification.
Yeah.
But if it requires modification, which are the states are how they are flexible in modification of the master plans?
Yes, of course. The Town and Country Planning Acts have the provision of how you are going to amend the master plan. Now, typically, if I take the example of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, Especially, I mean, there'll be a geo, series of geos will be issued, and accordingly they amend the master plan. But that also, whenever you are going to amend the master plan, at least there has to be some justification. Is it the demand coming from the, the citizens of that particular city, or is it overall, in order to overcome the, the problems of, creating built-up space? So that accordingly that they can modify, but of course it has to be, the due process has to be undertaken, like inviting the objection sessions and then send the amendment to the approval of the state government, the competent authority. Of course, Maharashtra also, I mean, but actually it is very difficult to document that how many amendments have taken place. It's next to impossible, because if I take all 2900 master plan, I have no answer. That I cannot tell that how many amendments have taken place. And also, we have also advised to don't go into this, because it will be a very difficult task. Even during the parliament session, parliament question is asked, we would like to know the changes in land uses in the past 20 years. What has been the change? It's very difficult. Few metropolises ready master plans are available, but we have taken from them. And the same answer is, I mean, actually being repeated, because the Ministry of Environment asked that how much area under green space has actually increased or decreased. And we are quoting the master plan. We don't have the latest information. And somehow, even if we ask a government, they will give the same reply as per the master plan. Yes, madam, you wanted to ask.
It was a very small follow-up thing, but I was actually asking about the rationalities and the methodologies for, like, when you have this sort of problem and you can't remove the settlement. I mean, okay, maybe in Delhi you can evict everyone from the Yamuna river banks potentially, as the Supreme Court and the NGT think, but in smaller cities that the budget is also not there. It's just it's just impossible. You have to work with existing form as it is.
Absolutely.
And you have to make some modification potentially to your master plan in
Yes.
order to be able to
Yeah,
work.
yeah, absolutely.
Because otherwise you can't bring your planning
Yes,
to
absolutely,
those areas.
absolutely.
So, I mean, if you could think of examples or situations, how would you build up the rationalities and the kind of methodologies of this within that master planning framework, so that people are able to do it more easily than they have been able to?
I mean, it's a little bit difficult to answer. But yes, quoting the example, like you must have seen the Ahmedabad, especially with regard to, the slum rehabilitation scheme. What I'm bringing the rationality, let us set aside the master plan. What is, I mean, this was under the smart city. There's an area called Vadaj. So they had taken up under the area-based strategy that we are going to relocate this, or I mean, rather it was the in situ redevelopment. So out of curiosity, I said that representing ministry in the board of directors, I just went there and asked. So they have an association, and the pradhan of that association was telling that 80% of the slum dwellers, they agree that they will shift to the transit accommodation. Once the dwelling units gets complete, they will come back. So what about the 20%? They said that they are all working, their workspace is there itself. Workspace is there itself. Now here master plan cannot really help. Here you have to see that once you are going for redevelopment, in situ redevelopment, the 20% work, I mean, you'll have to build, there has to be a design within that, that you can ensure space for those, somebody is, the scrap dealer, somebody is a scooter mechanic, somebody is having some little shop. So you need to, create, and here you will not go to the DP and then refer that. So this is basically, that's why I say that the implementation under the lab will be much more easier, because you will invite all the you will have to take the views of stakeholders, and it becomes easy. Now, if you take the course of master plan, then it becomes a lengthy process. So why that the proposals have to be disaggregated, and of course, if they start, I need to also read the madam.
No, we will go back to them. We will go back. We will go back to them, but
Yeah.
before that,
Because-
Anamrita.
Parts.
Yeah, please.
You said that number of urban planners in the country is limited, right?
Yeah.
Again, 66,000, we are thinking
Yeah.
at least 8,000.
Yeah.
if we can. In that context, how practical it is to also prepare ZDPs, local area plans, etc. So that's my one question.
Good, good.
So how do you really want to work?
Yes,
with
it's
that?
good.
What you're doing in the committee?
Yes, 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 yes.
It's quite a leap of faith, I feel. That is one. The other part of the question is, sir, urban local bodies are the key stakeholders of the governing authority when it comes to city development. However, in the entire master planning process and also the projects that the master planning process puts together, the role of urban local body remains quite limited in the proposals, right? So how are we going to think differently now that you are saying that it is going to recognize sectoral plans?
Yes, yes, yes.
More of the sectoral
Yeah.
plans, even more the role of urban
Local bodies.
is very
Yeah, yeah.
important. So
Mhm.
how can we bridge that gap going
Absolutely.
forward? And I think
I'll-
that's one of the key
Yeah.
to succeed in
Mm.
our implementation. The final part of the questions are that we have been discussing about our unauthorized settlements,
Mhm.
mobilization of people, and so on. The role of civil society in this entire framing and implementation and, you know, also access to rights of people, basic rights of people to life. They used to get protected by this cohort of civil society institutions, right? They were actually working with the government to create those buy-ins, the 20% who are not agreeing to that shift.
Yeah, yeah.
So what solution can we propose? Can the new construction have a little bit of work shed maybe to
Mhm.
accommodate those who had worked there?
Yeah, yeah,
Then
yeah.
what is the strategy? So
Mhm.
how do you think going forward with this space shrinking?
Mhm.
Do you think just the master planning framework can solve this larger contradictions that we are?
Mhm.
Thank
Thank you very much for raising very valid question. First was you were mentioning about the number of planners estimates were done, but again it's a difficult task that at one go you are going to have 8,000 planners, and also it is very difficult that the state town planning department can have in-house. It's very difficult. Some states they are doing, but majority of the states they have to go for outsourcing or they have to resort to outsourcing. Now what happened? In order to encourage the state governments to fill up the post of planners, ministry under the special assistance, there is a scheme which was announced in budget 2022-23 that filling up of the post or strengthening the ecosystem of urban planners, state will get funds. If they give an evidence that they are going to fill up this post, this much of amount will be done. Some of the states have done. Bihar, of late, Bihar, Jharkhand, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Maharashtra, they have filled up a post and they have right to claim the incentives. But yes, it's too difficult. If I put norms, it becomes very difficult. But yes, state like Maharashtra doing a lot of but Andhra Pradesh has done. Andhra Pradesh, a lot of master plans have done, especially for small and medium term. So they have done because it requires less manpower and it requires, it will require less time towards. And if I have say master plan for Visakhapatnam or Vijayawada, it requires large number of not only planners but also the professionals. Say for example, somebody is an expert in the geomorphology or soil expert, or somebody is an expert on demography who can really visualize to what extent you are going to have a migration in the future. So let me tell you, it is very difficult to employ 8,000 planners, and it will also be difficult that the state town planning department is going to prepare master plan for every city. Second question, a very vital question, that how much you are going to, what I understood that you are going to make responsible the urban local bodies. I was having a discussion with Parvada. I was quoting the example of Uttar Pradesh, where urban local body doesn't have any role in plan either preparation or implementation, whereas urban development authority has been given the mandate to prepare the plan. And there are three prominent cities where there is no urban local body. One is Noida, Greater Noida, and Yamuna Expressway Industrial Development Authority. They have no local body, and in fact urban development authority act as a a local body where the issuing of death and birth certificate, actually they are facilitated. No, but there was a proposal. There was a proposal to set up a municipal corporation for these No, even they are, as per census, they are census town. But of course, they are notified township under the UP Industry Development Corporation Act. They were the proposal, but somehow the local people, they were saying, "Arey, local body aa jayega, to hamare ko we have to pay property tax. We'll have to give all the taxes. So it is better the Urban Development Authority is actually managing the city in a more professional manner." That's a feeling of citizen, but yes, in order to avail the central government grants, you have to have local body. So, but it varies from state to state, madam. Some of the states like Haryana, now they have started, bringing the, the municipal corporation under their fold, and they have been given the responsibility of preparing the master plan. It varies from state to state, but it will take a lot of time, if I go to quote each and every state, what is the overall, the scheme of things for preparing the plan. The last one which you mentioned about, I think the access to the rights, access to the people. Now there are n number of examples. Are you aware of the Mumbai Development Plan 2031? The state government was forced to, forced to withdraw the notification. What was the bone of contention? It was basically citizen when they started raising, they started protesting. The development plan, it prescribed FSI to the extent of 8 and 9. Now, first you ascertain the ground realities, whether so much of, the vertical development can really, whether the vertical development is commensurating the upgradation of infrastructure. And you are very well aware about the Mumbai, the municipal corporation. I mean, it's the only municipal corporation which prepares the development plan. And it has got huge resources, I think 55,000 crore rupees and 65,000 crores. And why the drainage is not being well maintained. Stormwater drainage. Of course, they have that. Now situation is much better than the previous, flooding. So yes, why they were forced to withdraw the notification to intense pressure from all the the stakeholders, the citizens, because they said that you don't have adequate right of way. How you will actually accommodate high-rise building? So it will lead to chaos. So then they were forced to constitute a committee. Perhaps it depends from city to city. Recently we had gone along with the SPS students. We went to Parbhani. There's a small town. So we went and asked municipal commissioner and district collector. They said people are quite satisfied whatever is available. भाई हमें नहीं ठीक है हमें कोई परेशानी नहीं है हमें पानी मिल रहा है ठीक है चल रहा है. But of course it has got serious problem of wastewater treatment as well as solid waste management. There is no organized solid waste management. So I think it depends on city to city how people are aware. And of course, I'm not saying that the role of town planners ends here, but the town planning department or whichever agency is going to implement the municipal corporation or development authority, they have to increase the visibility of master plan. Yeah, what are the expectations? Ab Delhi wale se pucho to there will be n number of expectations. They will say now. As a planner, when I commented on, Delhi master plan, I said, okay, I am a citizen of Delhi. I am paying all the taxes, all tariff, everything is paying. But I have got every right. Delhi has got plan development of a history of 60 years. I have every right to know that where my city stands in international. So can I compare Delhi with any other city? So I have got every right. So I think it depends on. No, but at the same time, I am a little bit unhappy to tell that the implementation of the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, we were talking about Metropolitan Planning Committee, we were talking about District Planning Committee, somewhere it has not. And I don't know how many of you know about the National Commission of Urbanization first report. How many of you have actually read Charles Corrier's very well drafted report? Not a single, of course, madam must be aware, I might have been the part of that. So not a single recommendations were actually implemented. Now, what happened? The NCU 2 also, I was involved where I was preparing the terms of references, but the view was taken that their first report was not so implemented, then why we should go for this. Then in 2018, there was a committee constituted for preparing a national urban, national urban policy framework, NUPF, which is actually, and you had assisted Hitesh when everybody was there. So a view was taken, it was circulated and ministry kept silent, said let it be like template, state ko de do. if they are able to take out of this, let them prepare their own, state urbanization policy or strategy. And the good thing is that Kerala has already constituted a committee on state urban strategy, where my senior, is the chairman of that committee, Dr. Satish. He is now professor in one of the universities in, I think, Ireland. So he's with it. Let us.
So
yeah.
would you like, I see those questions.
Yeah,
There are
please,
two
please.
of them similar. One is that the master plan has not been able to address some of these questions. Like there is one question about it hasn't been able to address growth, informality, and migration. You can also put water resources because that's the first question. Water-centric plan also not been addressed other than.
Yes. That,
So-
I don't know who is that. Can you read the name of that? person?
Paritosh Tyagi is asking
Paritosh
about.
Tyagi, let me also tell you. Recently when we have prepared the river-centric urban planning guidelines, hopefully we are quite optimistic that the state government will definitely incorporate the regulations, and then only we can address the issue of water-centric master plan. What about other thing he has asked?
The other one is about Debashish Bhattacharjee is asking about growth, informality, and migration. What is the current thinking about addressing these challenges using master plan? If you remember, one of the first comments that we made was that master planning as an instrument, the way it is structured, as land use plan,
Yes, sir.
DCRs,
I
and
think
bylaws,
we have
do you
to.
think it can address these challenges of?
Very difficult to tell. If I take the example of Delhi, and if I go to the railway station, I can virtually, estimate how many migrants are actually coming, and the migrant housing, or it is very difficult to really assess that how much additional dwelling units will be required. And that too, they are not, all are, the very skilled. They are all semi-skilled and unskilled, migrants are coming. But of course, we need to address, provided master plan really makes an estimate. Of course, census figures are not available. If they have some sort of estimates that how much migrants they are going to come, maybe I think rental housing, which
Just to
ministry-
quickly,
Yeah.
I actually want you to take back to the question that is being asked is that
What?
as the way it is structured as a land use plan.
Uh-huh.
That's how
Yes,
it's
yes,
structured, right?
yes.
Can it address the issues of migration?
No, it's very difficult, how, land use, at least we should know that through land use, how much area is into the planning area, how much area has been actually devoted for residential development, and how much actually you can really address the, the issue of, urban migrants, especially with regard to their housing requirements. It's very difficult, but yes, in 2019, a lot of thinking for, for rental housing.
Okay.
So
in 2020,
Yeah, that's
the
what
master
is-
plan also has.
has, but
But that
actually,
is only Delhi.
I'm saying it's on basis
no,
of estimates.
I can give straight answer only when I know how much master plan is actually issues and how much it is getting implemented. So there cannot be a straightforward answer that it is going to address. It is very difficult, but yes, land use also it will require further, a lot of, research would be required, that how many migrants are coming and how much their requirement is. Of course, we did a lot of things, but there were a lot of criticism during COVID time when there was a reverse migration. Yes, please. Next.
Yeah, the next question is also a very interesting one.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is from anonymous attendee.
Yeah.
So how can a master plan, being a statutory document, given the fact that it is, he mentioned about EPA, it's not EPA, right? In
EP?
India, it is Environment Act. Environment-
I'm not a protected.
So given that you have EPA.
Yeah.
Having all these, require provisions for protecting water
Yes,
bodies and
yes.
ecological
Yeah.
resources. How can the master plan, as a statutory document, either, supporting enforcement of this
Yes, sir.
act or accommodating that concerns of the act?
Absolutely. I don't know how many of you actually seen the master plans of, coastal cities.
Very few, I would say.
Very
Only
few will be mentioning about that. So, there is no, limitation that master plan cannot, give the mention of all these acts. So they can say that while enforcing this act, provision will be there. And in fact, for example, if I talk about this one, ridge, the vital lung spaces of that. So the master plan has to mention that any development comes, it has to be seen under the Environmental Protection Act. If any violation is there, then you need to take immediate action or urgent action. And that decision has been going, especially anomalies, especially in the Haryana part of this. And today only they have said they are going to define what is forest.
Yeah.
Now then if you are mentioning about the forest definition, the master plan should tell that under which act it has to be addressed. Yeah, please, next. Anonymous ke baad, I think. Anonymous.
Uske baad Nikhil Ali said there is a
Nikhil
question
Ali.
about Kerala's. Arnas, could you please
Can you
browse it down? There is Vasudha, another question.
Vasudha.
But the first question is about Kerala's building rules in 2019.
Yes, yes.
They mandated the need for rainwater harvesting systems in all new buildings.
Yes.
Except certain buildings, hazardous occupancy
Yeah, yeah,
buildings.
yeah.
That particular rules were amended
Yes.
later to
Yeah.
make exceptions for housing units having built up area up to 300
300
square meters. Now, the average area of housing unit in Kerala is 90.1 square meters.
90.1.
Thus, the amendment exempts entire housing units within Kerala. What is the point, I think? I don't know what is the question there.
I have understood. I think perhaps he is mentioning about the plot size. Kerala building rules were amended and they have incorporated the rainwater harvesting. In fact, Delhi is also one of the first city to have the rainwater in front. But actually, they have prescribed 300 square meter, but he says average size comes to 90 square meters. For 90 square meter, it will be very difficult. I mean, it will be difficult, and in fact, I don't know the house owners will really go for the provision of the implementing the provision of rainwater harvesting. But actually, you have to ascertain that with respect to this rule, the local bodies of Kerala, when they are issuing the the occupancy completion certificate, do they really have the provision of certification that the particular house has got the rainwater housing? But the smaller house, the more will be challenged. But like in Greater Noida city, or I mean, up to 300 square meters, there is no need for rainwater harvesting. Above that, you need to have. But yes, in order to address this issue, community level rainwater harvesting is much more easier. Rainwater harvesting implementation is much more easier in group housing. So group housing, you absolutely mandate that this much of area you have to earmark for rainwater harvesting, and also community at the district level. I mean, district park. Typically, we have a hierarchy of green spaces. Every green spaces should have the provision of rainwater harvesting, which is much more easier to implement, and also all the the commercial complexes and institutional buildings need to have. Then you will have. But individual housing, of course, there will be a question mark. In Delhi, there is absolutely, there is no mechanism there now that all, except for the new buildings. Old buildings, it is very, even if you go for retrofitting, it is very difficult that people are actually going for rainwater harvesting. Yes, you take the good example of rainwater harvesting in Chennai. Chennai, they have demonstrated that with the effective and with the strong political will, they had implemented the rainwater harvesting, and that was also explained by the fact that groundwater recharge has taken place. Yes, Vasudha.
No, let's get back to the room if there are any questions.
No, Vasudha.
Vasudha, and there are also more of them. Actually. We'll go back to Vasudha and others.
Yeah, please.
Online
please.
ones.
Sorry,
But here is a gentleman here, and then Devarshi is the other one.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have actually two questions. One is town planning and amendments. There is no problem as far as that part of is concerned. But when it comes to implementation,
Yes.
now this is one. There's another one before I proceed. That is, we have the urban the master planning, but what about the rural master planning? Why are not concentrating on the rural areas? See, right, because we are planning because the people are moving from the urban to the rural. If we stop it there, they wouldn't move here. That is the basic question. So our as a political managers are, I would say, are insensitive to the issue that they don't want to live at the root of it. I'm talking about grassroots problem. It should be tackled over there, not over here. Now, this is one. And my next is about the implementation. You have also they have shown some doubts about that and the water harvesting. For the implementation, you need a funds allocation and expenditure and achievements, right? The fund allocation, without fund allocation, you can't do. Everything starts from there. Everything starts from there. Fund allocation, the Rajiv Gandhi once said, out of 100, only 17 percolate down and 83% is lost somewhere in the way. So this is what happens. This is expenditure and achievements. We don't get the achievement over there. Now, I give you an example of that. I'm very concrete. You talk about the water harvesting. I'm from Delhi here,
Yeah.
from southern area, right? I saw with my own eyes because I'm a social activist. Right?
Yes.
So what I saw, they implemented this water harvesting wells all over the places, all over the places. Half of them were done, half of them were half done.
Yes.
They didn't do it at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Just dug up little and gone over there. Others have just vanished. Where have they gone? There's no well at all. Now the water level over here is still going down. I say in Chennai it's coming up. It's still going down. Reason being, the expenditure is lost.
Yes.
Expenditure is lost. Whatever the allocation was there, it is all vanished. So nothing is, so achievement is nil. It is on the paper.
Yes.
The planning is on the paper. So
Yeah,
the planning
is on the paper. Yes.
Right? So we are very good planners. I can go on mentioning over here. I give the reason. I tell you the reason. Now I'm coming to sir, my last, sir. The last is my last is this is supreme is no, this is the
already asked 2 questions.
I asked you question. I see the reason. Now I'm giving the reason. This is in my country. Not our country. In our country, people have no respect for the law and do not give a damn to the law.
So
Rural master plan.
I appreciate what he has raised his concern. Of course, I am now out of government formally. So, but I can typically give the answer from like typically, Ministry of Housing and Urban. See, when we were preparing a guidelines, urban and regional development plan formation and implementation guidelines, there was a lot of criticism that you tell that it is a town and city planning. Town and everywhere it is known as town and city planning of department or organization. Where is that country? What is you are doing for country? So when we discussed with our bureaucrats, they said, "Bhai, our domain is urban, so you cannot really you cannot take care of the planning of rural areas." Now, what happened when we had prepared the URDP guidelines? At the same time, we got invitation from Ministry of Panchayati Raj. At that time, Mr. Shiva, Kerala, he was the Chief Secretary Kerala, and then he was also Secretary Ministry of Panchayati Raj institution. He said, "Why can't you prepare a guidelines for planning the rural areas?" So now please write down, there is a RADPFI, Rural Area Development Plan Formation and Implementation Guidelines, wherein we have advocated that all Gram Panchayats needs to have a development plan. Gram Panchayats can have a 5 or 6 villages, depending upon maybe somewhere in Uttar Pradesh or Madhya Pradesh, there may be 10 villages per Gram Panchayat. So now it was little bit difficult, when we discussed with town planning department, they said first, pehle hum to apna city ka master plan to bana de. Thereafter, we will prepare. Then only most of the town and city planning department were reluctant to venture into the the planning for rural areas. But yes, Ministry of Panchayati Raj had issued these guidelines prepared by SPA Bhopal, and first guidelines were prepared under my guidance. Now, what we had a detailed stakeholder consultation SPAB, wherein all planning institutions, they had prepared at least one Gram master plan. So this Gram master plan for Gram Panchayat needs to be, all the state governments should be sensitized, and all the Panchayati Raj department need to, they need to be directed to prepare the plan, but it's huge. There are 2.5 lakh Gram Panchayat. When we are not able to prepare even the 8,000 master plan, then we will talk about Gram Panchayat. But the beginning has been made. The Panchayati Raj officers have been sensitized. Now, I only see that how we can increase the prospects of planners to work in the rural areas, to work for the Gram Panchayat. So we also estimate that if there can be 2.5 lakh Gram Panchayat plans, this much of planner will be required. But slowly states are realizing this fact, and you need to. Of course, it was a dream of our honorable late President Dr. Abdul Kalam. He had initiated PURA, provision of urban amenities in rural areas. So that was subsumed in the urban mission, and under the urban mission, now the state can really go for spatial planning for urban, rural settlements, maybe in the form of gram panchayat. The second part you mentioned about the resource allocation, I think you were talking about the funds. and what
No,
would
so
be the-
I was talking implementation.
Yes, yes.
And fund is the base, right?
Yeah.
And what happens to fund?
No,
That is the story.
that's what in the beginning we mentioned, that master plan need to be reviewed. You have to see that how much funds have been allocated and how much has been spent. So that is only ascertained only once you review the master plan every 5 years. Or usme master plan mein normally they are silent that what could be the financial implications of. They say that it is not our domain. Maybe the finance department, we will submit this thing proposal to finance department. They may come up with a proposal. But I think it is a task of an urban planner. If you have gone through HPC report, Ishar Alwalia's report, they have given the entire estimate. That model can be replicated to city, and one can always estimate the financial requirements and to what extent the expenditure has taken place.
So, if you do it, so last one.
So there are not.
Right, okay, right.
कोई नहीं, I'm always, I think Vasudha.
No. There is another question raised by one Devarshi and then that lady there. So Devarshi, do you still have a question?
Please, if you have any question.
Or in the interest of the other audience?
Yeah.
Okay, it's on. So we had during that NIUA roundtable. So a lot of people were talking about the limitations of the TP law itself. Like the town and country planning law.
Okay.
I mean, how much, if you want to include disaster, climate change, environment, all into the laws, does it make a law? Does it, can you incorporate so many components within the?
What you can do.
Within
But-
the master plan, can we also, let me just also add another question that I have. One
Yes,
more
yes.
question.
So, and there were more proposals that you need to have these bylaws and regulation that can incorporate more, I would say, scientific measure to
Yes,
address this,
yes,
where
yes,
the law
absolutely.
can itself be an overarching, like how,
Yeah.
EP Act it's more like water, air, and then we had
Yes,
EP Act, and
Yeah.
it's like more of an overarching
Yes,
framework
yeah.
that the town
Mm.
planning law needs to respond to.
Mm.
Similar kind of act.
Absolutely.
How do you see this? Because we had so much of concerns, and
Yes.
everyone is saying that we amend the TP law. So is it feasible to incorporate so many changes within the law itself? And maybe, I think.
No,
Within the law, amending the law,
Within the instrument or within the law?
within the law.
Within the
TP
law, within the the existing TNCP acts or UDA act, it is feasible. You can mention. At least you can mention. No, until it gets mentioned in the act, state government will not initiate to prepare all this plan. And also they may not be able to incorporate whatever you said, whether it is issues related to environment or disaster or climate resilience. So first of all, until as it gets into incorporated in TNCP Act, they will not be, straight away they are not going to take action. So you need to amend. That's why I think we may have worked for the latest model TNCP Act. We need to
Which is
prepare.
that one? Is it?
No. We had 1960, 1985, and the URDP guidelines has mentioned about the contents of
Right.
Model Town and City Planning Act.
Right.
So maybe, actually, I cannot straight away say, but yes, we can always write to the Ministry of Housing and Urban so that the time has come. And in fact, through HLC, I will make my efforts that we need to. And in fact, one of the recommendations that the state need to revisit these acts. And until we have a model act, then state will be. It will be easier for state. They can take a lot of inputs from that. So that's very much important.
Yeah.
But yes, what was the second part?
No, there is no second part.
want-
Right, actually, there is a second,
Yeah.
there is a second question.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much for your talk. So I just had a question going back to informality. So we talked a little bit about land use when we were talking about informality. My question is more about water supply. So, we know that about half of the city's population is living in JJ clusters, resettlement
yes.
colonies, and slum designated areas. And we also know that, with the summers are getting hotter, there's increasing heat stress. And so that's also leading to increased demand for water that's very much unmet. So I was just curious, do master plans have the capacity to increase water supply? Have they done this in the past? How does that process work? Especially because there's Delhi Jal Board also to collaborate with. Yeah.
Yeah, very critical questions here I asked. See master plan of any city, it will give, previously also I mentioned, it will only give what is the existing scenario. what are the resource, I mean, what are the sources from where the water is coming? Typically, in the case of Delhi, even, the water which, comes from Yamuna, and typically during the peak summer season, also the water gets diverted into the agricultural land. Usually, I mean, virtually it becomes, a storm water, I mean, rather a wastewater drain. So it becomes very difficult, but yes, the master plan has to, first of all, it has to address that where are the sources of water, how you are to, going to bring that water to the city, and how you are going to address especially the slum dwellers. But of course, a lot of work has been initiated that, the slum dwellers need to have a basic access to the, water supply. But at the same time, I would like to quote the report of Niti Aayog, wherein they have, raised a serious concern that 21 cities, million plus cities will run out of water if there are no, if the monsoon fails consecutively for
2030.
2030, yeah,
I'm-
2030. Yeah, you kindly correct that thing. But yeah, it will be a huge challenge. And what could be the solution for this?
Rainwater.
No, rainwater harvesting, that's what it requires, a lot of sensitization among all. And of course, the best, the solution could be maybe the RWS and, RWS and CBOs, they have to work. If you remember, and Delhi government has also given the incentives, I think that was under Bhagidari scheme. If the RWS go for rainwater harvesting, they can get around 50,000 rupees incentives. But yes, there are certain incentives in terms of rebate in property tax. If you are going for rainwater harvesting, rebate in property tax, maybe, also rebate in the water bills. That can be easily worked out. But, at the same time, city authorities also have to constitute a rainwater harvesting cell. Some of the cities have done. So this is very much important. Either it can be a development authority or it can be under municipal corporation. They have to ensure. This has been a very tough. We have faced Parliament Standing Committee in convincing them. They were totally criticism. And the Chennai came to rescue. I mean, they came to rescue, and the chairman of Chennai Metropolitan Water Board, he came and he met in his presentation. I remember that he demonstrated that how effectively the rainwater harvesting has been implemented. But of course, it's a challenge. There can be no straightforward answer that within overnight I'm going to resolve all the water issues. But yes, taking into account the slums and the the EWS housing, you have to prioritize water supply for these informal settlements. Yes.
Right, I'm sure there are plenty of other questions, but we are already past our schedule.
No, I don't know
Almost
whether
30
you
minutes
can
past.
just I can
No,
2 minutes I
no,
can give the
we-
answer of this
we-
online question.
We have more questions here too. I have 10 questions.
Yeah, you kindly no, but
No, but let me.
I think Vasudha
no.
has. I think she is one of my student. If I don't know because she has not given full name. Because
Vasudha A.
Vasudha, no, I think she is not my student. Vasudha Sharma, she is in Niti Aayog.
No, but let me just quickly on the question that the previous question. Delhi has typically, this is the way master plan is prepared, the way he has mentioned that. I'm just adding to it. There is this population projection for the horizon time, the 20 years or 25 years. And then you take certain standards saying that 130 LPCD or whatever that is
Yeah.
required, and then project it.
Yeah.
And then look for this much amount of water. And the way the Delhi government, just an example, I'm not saying that this is everywhere, the Delhi government went about looking for water resources is to, beyond Delhi, look out for these dams and structures from where they would get certain share of water. And that's how it has been. They have even proposed for a couple
Yeah.
of structures, which the,
Yes.
I mean, the reason why
Yeah.
I'm mentioning is the kind of cities dependency beyond their jurisdiction on water resources.
Yeah.
So you have what are the Lakwar and other kind of
Yes, yes.
Renuka Dam.
Renuka Dam,
which
yes,
depends.
Yeah.
What is more interesting from our own research that came across and we wanted to look at a little bit more closely is that Delhi government struck a interstate water sharing agreement
Okay.
with
Mhm.
Himachal Pradesh.
Okay.
If you know geography, Himachal Pradesh is little far off. So the water that from Yamuna,
Yamuna, yeah.
the water that Himachal Pradesh could not use, they were willing to give it to Delhi
Yeah.
for a price. Now that price details we can mention it later, but the point is that it could. But then the water has to come through Haryana.
Hmm.
How would you bring that water? And then how the cities are going to negotiate with the
Negotiate.
neighboring states.
Yes, yes.
These are the challenges. And these are the challenges that the cities are going to face. And obviously these kind of interstate water sharing agreements, the prescription do not come necessarily from the master plan. If that particular planner is imaginative, they would put in all these things, but usually they don't happen that far. It's basically saying that this much water is required for the 2050 or 2045. Mukta, you want that?
The only thing I want to add to that is that the master plan has to be careful because it's a statutory document.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever it puts in can be challenged by law. So if you can say too much, you're in trouble. So you have to be, it's a document where brevity is what they're aiming for and not expansion. So there's a reason why a lot of the real stuff is actually left out of the master plan completely, because whatever they put there, they'll have to,
Yes.
you know, they're liable for it, right?
So we should wrap it up. Yeah, acknowledging the challenges that are involved and the kind of limitations that the master plan as an instrument has to address the urban challenges, growing urban challenges. We should wrap it up here, but unless you insist on actually going back to online questions,
No,
but we should wrap it.
No, but they may feel that they will say that this is restricted as an in-house discussion, not taking the answer.
Right. There are plenty of other questions. I think we should.
So if you save these questions, I can reply them.
Yeah, sure. Annas, we can save them. I think there are
we can
repeated questions from the same. Devshish Bhattacharjee has got more questions. I think Mr. Srinivas has addressed the question already. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So any specific
So-
question, if any specific,
I think we have tea or coffee here, right? Right. Yeah.
okay.
Do we have?
But
tea?
how we cannot,
Chai? Is it there?
no, Devashri, but you have emails of all these participants. So then I can answer. No problem.
So with
No
that,
problem.
yes, we will forward the
Please,
questions.
please.
Yeah.
I will
Right.
love to.
And thank you for your time and your
Maybe
interest.
some of the
Yeah.
some of the answers which I have given maybe might not be very satisfactory, but I have tried my best, based on my experience.
No, thank you for that enthusiasm and keenness. Yeah. Thank you very much.